What's up, everybody? Welcome to Last Men Standing Season 2, Episode 6. I am Tony Farmer. He is Jason Anik, and we are jacked up because the NFL season is 8 days away, and that means Circa Survivor is 8 days away. How you feeling over there, Jason?
I'm so good, and I'm honestly wondering what I'm looking forward to more is my public conversations with Tony Farmer this season or my private ones, you know?
We'll be talking throughout the week, no doubt, before and after these shows. I'm looking forward to that too, brother. And I'm also looking forward to our special guest today because in about 5 minutes or so, we got House coming on the show. A lot of you probably know House from, first of all, he made it all the way to the final week of Circa Survivor last year, which is a hell of an accomplishment. But he was also in the Circa Survivor documentary, Quest for 14.2 million. He was the guy that was uploading videos from his vacation as he was going through this incredible Circa Survivor journey. So I can't wait to pick his brain. Of course, we're going to talk a little week one, but I also want to let people know our episode next week, that's going to be the deep dive that Jason and I do into week one, where we take every single game on the week one schedule, those games that you see over on the side of the screen there, and we dissect every single one from a Circa Survivor standpoint. So looking forward to that show with you next week too, Jason.
100%. And so for those of you joining us for the first time, thank you. We appreciate you. But Tony, I wasn't part of this show last year, and I love that you punched it correctly, Last Men Standing. But if you don't mind, can you quickly break down the Circa Survivor contest, what the show is all about for those who might not have seen it before?
Yeah, I think that people, even if you're not in Circa Survivor, which I'll explain in a minute, but even if you're not in Circa Survivor, I think anybody that likes the NFL can get something out of this show. Anybody that likes Survivor pools in general can get something out of the show. But we're mainly talking through the lens of Circa Survivor, which is the largest legal NFL Survivor pool contest in the history of the world. Last year, it had a $14.2 million pool. This season, guaranteed $15 million, but we're expecting somewhere roughly in the neighborhood of $20 million. And if that doesn't get you excited, if that doesn't get you feeling a little warm inside,
I got goosebumps. You give me goosebumps, legitimate.
The potential to win $20 million, life-changing money. That's what we're here to do, is to help other people on this journey. We have our own journeys trying to win the money, of course. And that's what we do. We talk strategy. We talk holiday implications because in Circa Survivor, Thanksgiving and Christmas are a separate week. So you got 20 weeks, not just 18. We're here to talk all of that. We had a couple episodes up on YouTube already talking to past champions, people who have already won this thing. And so we dive into the history of Circa Survivor. We look at the future of Circa Survivor. It's a lot of fun.
It's going to be unbelievable. So we were on Radio Row at Circa last week. Tony was there for a few days. Talked to all sorts of sharps, including Tony Farmer. I'm interested to see how you're going to talk about your entries. That was one of the things I was most interested in about last year, how you that line. And we've talked about as the season goes along, you'll disclose less perhaps to your competitors that may be watching this show. But I think we're only really scratching the surface here. And this contest that paid $14.2 million to the winner last year, what was it, $6 million the year before? Right? Yeah. I mean, it's exponential, the growth. Yeah. So as we think about sort of our approach to this contest and this NFL season, right? For you, you give out plays, you're handicapping this league in far more ways than the Survivor contest. So I'm just curious for you, does this sort of have a big cloud over all of your gambling because of how invested you are in this contest? Or are you able to pick your spots and still do what you do as a professional?
So a little bit of each, but I tell you, every single year, Circa Survivor creeps a little bit more into my life. I mean, it started with the podcast last year. This is now the second year doing the podcast. I've got a poster behind me. We went to that event. We had to get all sorts of fancy materials and business cards for Last Men Standing. So to answer your question, I, of course, still do handicapping on the side, but every single year that Circa Survivor exists, it consumes me a little more. My first time in Circa Survivor 2021 made it to Thanksgiving. I had 4 entries. Now I've got 10. My girlfriend's got 10 entries. Everything Circa Survivor is growing in my life, and I like it that way. It feels good.
I love it. And so it's going to be so interesting when I talk about talking to you publicly and privately about those 20 entries. Tony and I are going to have one entry together, and it'll be interesting for us to talk on this show and privately about how we handle that one entry, because given the plethora of entries you have, and I have 4 entries, that number may grow with my brother John. So it'll be interesting to see how we handle that one entry. Certainly it'll be entertaining on this show. It'll be interesting for me to navigate my 4 entries and my conversations with you. Like, I can't wait, next year it's going to be 30. I'm trying to figure out how I can get as connected to you as I can with this contest, because for those of you that saw our show on Radio Row and who saw the documentary, Tony says, I'm going to win this contest one day, and I want to have footage of one of the greatest days in my life. And I said it last week. I'm going to say it again. The manifestation, the belief. Like, I'm not sure if I'm going to ever win this thing, but Tony's going to win it one day. And so if I'm close enough to it, you never know. But I'm just so excited. I can't believe we're going to talk to House. You probably know more about his experience than I do, but gosh, I hope he found a way to make some green somehow.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that conversation. Before we get there, House is going to be coming on in about 2 minutes. Quick shout out to Survivor Sweat. They are a proxy service. They also have the marketplace with Circa Survivor. So if you're hearing us talk about this competition and you're like, you know what? I think I might want to join this quest for $20-ish million. Go ahead and go over to survivorsweat.com or text that phone number that you see on the screen now. They're a fantastic proxy service. They've been my proxy for the last couple of years, and they will get you set up. If you live outside of Nevada, you've got to come to Nevada, sign up with a proxy. That's how you are able to legally participate in this contest. They then put your picks in for you every week. So again, that phone number, 702-843-9619. Love the folks over at Survivor Sweat. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in Big House. We got a lot to talk about here. Looking forward to this. What's happening, Big House? How you doing, man?
Tony, hey, what's up, man? How are you? Hey, Jason.
What's up, buddy? Good to meet you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, you as well.
Is that a Survivor grid I see on the wall behind you, my friend?
Sure is.
Can we get any intel from that? Is there any post-it notes or anything on it, or is that just basic standard thing?
That's it. No, it's just the standard thing that you get at Circa Sports for $20 or whatever it costs. I went last year and tried to get one, and the big ones were sold out, so I got stuck with just the small one. But this year I went nice and early. I was there in late May, and they still had the big ones, so it's up on the wall.
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. As we mentioned, you made it all the way to week 18 last season. This was covered in the documentary. Heartbreaking loss with the Packers. Talk to us about the journey, because I'm going to go ahead and pull up your path here. This is from Survivor Atlas. Bro, wow. You had a rough week too.
Oh, yeah.
You lost 8 of your friggin' 10 entries, all but 2 in week 2. Let's start there. How are you feeling after week 2 when you lose 8 entries?
Yeah, I was heartbroken. Getting through week 1, I picked 4 teams. I got through all 10 unscathed. I felt really good. And then week 2, I really didn't know what to do. It was a tough week, so I spread it out. And I think that's when you spread out, you're at risk of losing more entries, of course. I only got through with Houston, so it was heartbreaking, but, a chip in a chair, as they say in poker.
And what are your emotions? Oh, go ahead, Jason.
No, you could talk about your emotions. I'm all ears.
Your emotions at that point. I mean, how would you describe it? Are you pessimistic? Are you angry? Are you still have hope? Are you trying to talk yourself into it? What's going through your mind after week 2?
I picked Philadelphia as 2 of the picks there in week 2. I don't know if you remember that game, but they were leading. It was the Monday night game, and I went to play tennis. I went to play tennis, and the game was like in the bag. I'm like, okay, easy to win this one. I'm not even going to worry about it. And then at 8:00, I looked at my phone just to confirm, and I saw they lost, and it was just how. And then I was pissed off for the rest of tennis, and took a while to get grounded. But weeks 3 and 4 were both the Thursday night games that I picked. And that sort of felt really good to get through on a Thursday and then see the carnage happen on Sunday.
If I'm not mistaken, week 2, I didn't see any entries on Baltimore. Did they lose to the Raiders at home? I may be mistaken, but it's like, so you didn't even fall for that trap. I may be off there, but
no, you're right.
Burned.
I think you're right, Jason.
It's insane. So I'm afraid to ask this question, but I'm just going to do it. To what extent can you talk about how you handled sportsbook action, hedging action as you go down the stretch. Like I met a guy who's this week on the Survivor Radio Row. He's like, hey, new house, new car, and he didn't even win the thing. I think he was the runner up. So how'd you navigate that? If I dare ask?
Yeah, no, you can, and it's fine. And I'm not too worried about it. But part of my process every week, especially as it got further, was just to submit a video to those Circa documentary guys. I just felt like that was sort of, good luck, if you will. I watched Tony's videos. I watched Last Man Standing. I watched a lot of other videos, and that was just sort of my process I did every week. Fast forward. So that's why I was in the documentary a lot. Fast forward to the last week when I lost, I sent them a video and they showed me at the end talking about how I lost and was heartbroken. A part they edited out, though, was saying I was probably quite possibly the biggest loser in Circa history because I didn't hedge at all. I had nothing. I just had all my chips in. Is what it is. And so at that time, it was like $800,000 of equity. I could have hedged out and like guaranteed about $600,000 because it was 3-1 ish for that game, but I didn't. And such is life. I'm fine with that. But yeah, effectively a 600,000 plus loss.
Well, Tony, I'll let you get in, but I don't know if I'm not sure if I have more respect for what you did or how you're talking about it now. Either way, you're the fucking man, excuse my language, and you're due. I like that, putting that karma out into the world. Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick. And I don't want to dwell on a sore subject. We'll talk about some other stuff after this, but that decision not to hedge, it is a decision not to hedge. So did things sneak up on you? Did you give it a lot of thought and then ultimately decide not to? Just talk to me briefly about why you decided not to.
Yeah, I mean, really, all I cared about was the blue jacket. I wanted to win the contest. Like, to me, that's worth more. I wanted to win the contest. Fast forward to week 18 there. I was on a family trip in Hawaii. Hawaii is quite a ways away from Vegas. So I was thinking about it. I was like, do I leave my family and fly to Vegas and go hedge a bit? And I was like, I ultimately decided not to. If I was back home, like in Vancouver, it's a couple hour flight down to Vegas. Would I have? Maybe. Bigger chance, that's for sure. I'm honestly not too fussed about it though. I'm more upset about the blue jacket loss than the financial loss.
We all want a blue jacket one day for sure. I'm going to go ahead and pull your path up again because you referenced going 4-0 in week 1. I'm not going to ask you where you're putting your entries on week 1 this year because I don't want you to give away, too much strategy, et cetera. But can you talk in general, just general thoughts about week 1 as you head into it this year?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think Jason said at the start, I was listening to the first few minutes, that like, especially at the start of a contest, I'm not too worried about giving away alpha or giving away my secrets. There's 20,000 people in it. Yeah. So does it matter that much? I don't think so. As it gets later on and there's, 100 people, the more information you give, the more people can strategize. So I don't know. I'm pretty open. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to be doing yet week 1. I've been pondering it for God, since the schedule came out really. But Philadelphia is obviously a big favorite. They play on Thursday night, but they have so much future value. I think Denver has a lot of future value as well. So more than like trying to be contrarian, I'm really trying to map it out. Like you really want to find out where you can use teams in the future and create that map is, I think, to me, the biggest factor. More than being contrarian, it's not even about being contrarian week 1. It's about mapping teams out and where can you use them in the future. And I see value for Philadelphia, of course. Week 10, Denver has a lot of value. A few other spots as well. So I probably won't be on either of those teams. I like Arizona, road team. I like Cincinnati, road team division game. I'm hoping, those are kind of two common things that people steer away from, but I think they are steaming up a bit and they're probably going to be both fairly highly picked, but I think they're pretty good spots to use them.
So Cincinnati's woes in week one the last couple of years, does it give you any pause, or do you just kind of say, hey, maybe that'll actually I love that. Do you think that actually will sort of deflate the Bengals a little bit, and you'll end up getting some nice EV because that number may be lower than it should be because people will overreact to the Bengals losses the last couple of years?
I hope so. I certainly hope so. One difference, I guess, that I'm sort of riding on to this year is looking at who's playing in the preseason. Because since they've shortened the games to the preseason to 3 games, there's just been a lot more variance in the early few weeks of football because no one's ready to play games. Cincinnati's played. Joe Burrow played a bit. Other starters played a little bit, I think, in week 1 or 2. As opposed to previous years, I don't think they played at all. So that's something to sort of maybe they'll be a little more ready than they were in the past.
We've got Anthony chiming in here. New England week 1. Who says no? House, do you say no to New England week 1?
Funny story about that one. New England was actually high on my list. I think they were probably 3rd after Arizona, Cincinnati, then New England. And I was watching a preseason game, and their kicker was kicking like a 48-yard field goal. And in my head, I said, if this guy misses this kick, I'm not going to take New England.
I love it.
And lo and behold, he kicks it, and it went, I forget if it was right or left, but he missed it. And I looked, it was like, who is that kicker? It was like Borealis or something. And I quickly Googled, who's New England starting kicker? Yeah, it's that guy. I'm like, if he can't kick in the preseason, I'm off New England. So just little things like that I'm less inclined to take them now.
Yeah, and I'm a Patriots fan. That's fascinating. And, I've heard some people that like the Patriots. We talked a little bit to some other guys out in Vegas about what it's like to sort of handicap your own team. Because as a Patriots fan, there are times where I feel very connected. And Tony, as a 49ers fan, last year I worked with Tony, and like he was just like a week ahead all year of what was happening with the 49ers. I'm like all optimistic. He's just like, no. So I guess I see a Seattle Seahawks behind you. You're in Vancouver. Are you a Seahawks fan?
I am a Seahawks fan, but I'm not by any means a diehard fan. Like, I would happily bet against them every game of the year if it made sense. But yes, proximity, they're my team. I don't care that greatly though.
It's Tony for me. So I always tell Tony, he's probably sick of me saying it, how much I learned from him. Right. And then we get out to Vegas, and some of my takeaways, House, are all these guys zig when you got to zag, be contrarian. So for you to talk about the future value and mapping it out, you can be sure my guy Tony has his processes mapping out. You could be sure, I bet my life that's part of Tony's gig. So it's so interesting to me I'm really open-minded to learning. I don't consider myself an NFL handicapper in the strongest sense of it. My brother and I did 5 picks against the spread forever. It was fun, and I think the Survivor gives me a better chance to cash. So I'm really excited to sort of see how being connected to smart people, what roads it takes me down, because you all have different ways of approaching it.
Yeah, certainly. To me, I think mapping in Survivor, especially in Circa with those 2 extra weeks, is so important. That's the most important thing.
And those 2 extra weeks are holiday week. They're not just extra weeks. They're tiny extra weeks. And this year, you've got a couple teams like the Chiefs who are playing on both of them. So everything is just so interconnected. I mean, the decisions that you make week 1 can absolutely impact those holiday weeks really soon. So what was your first reaction when you saw what the holiday games were going to be on the NFL schedule, House?
Oh God. I looked at the schedule when it first came out in May. Do I remember that far back? Not entirely, but I remember seeing Philadelphia. Okay. They're going to be a nice favorite on Thanksgiving. Washington looks nice on Christmas. But part of my thinking too is, especially if everyone's saving those particular teams for those weeks, if 50%'s on Philadelphia, for example, on Thanksgiving, maybe that's not the best EV spot to take them. Like, if you can take Philadelphia a different week where you're almost on an island, I think that could be a very interesting thing to do.
Yeah, and maybe week 1 isn't an island spot. But it is an argument, what you just said, I think, to maybe take Philly week 1 because other people are – but you got to save some Thanksgiving teams if you're going to take that route. If you're using Philly week 1, you better have a plan and a backup plan for Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah. I mean, Philly has a ton of other nice spots too, though. Like week 8, they're playing the Giants. Week 15, they're playing the Raiders. Especially by week 15, like after Thanksgiving, no one's really going to have Philly left. So if you can make it that far, that's a really nice spot to have them.
House, you got any general thoughts about week 17? Take a look at that one. Only I don't think there's a single game that's lined over 4 points. I think the Titans are 3.5-point favorites. Crazy enough, they may play a factor in this thing. Week 17.
Yeah.
You've got the Bengals against the Cardinals, maybe a cold weather game for Arizona going up to Cincinnati. There's not a lot of options for week 17. Have you looked that far ahead, or are you more of a, I'm going to try to get there and I'll worry about those last couple weeks later?
I certainly looked that far ahead, but it's August right now, and these lines and these situations are all going to change so much. So you can sort of have a rough idea right now. Okay, yeah, I like San Francisco against Chicago that week, but things can change. Someone gets hurt, especially on San Francisco. Multiple people get hurt. Sorry, Tony.
It's truth.
Or any other teams, right? Like stuff can happen. So I think those lines by that time that comes around, there's going to be touchdown favorites. It's not going to just be these 3-point favorites.
Well, and like Tony, like my square opinion looking at week 17 is I think Seattle by that point is going to be bad because I don't believe in Sam Darnold. I think Bryce Young and Carolina, we talked about them having a better year. So I think Carolina, home to Seattle week 17, I feel as though Carolina, very good chance to have something to play for. And maybe Seattle's a team that I don't believe in. I'll be careful about the bias, but I'd like to think maybe Carolina will still be available to me at that point, and maybe it's a better option. But hey, if I'm available week 17, I'm happy either way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's that slate right there. We got someone saying big balls, big house, mad respect. That's from the Monster Bed 75. You got to have mad respect if you make it all the way to the final week of the season in Circa Survivor. That's one hell of an accomplishment for sure. No doubt about it. We got another question here. Gabe Survivor. I'm wondering if this is Gabe from Survivor Atlas. I wonder if it's the same guy. Are you guys considering week 2 or week 3 at all in week 1 decisions? I think that's a fascinating question because I believe the Cardinals, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the Cardinals play the Panthers in week 2. And so it's like if you don't use them week 1, week 2 might be a decent spot for Arizona. I'll throw that question to you, Big House. How much are you thinking about weeks 2 and 3 as you decide on week 1?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think I'm thinking about every week as I think about week 1. You look at a team and you say, what other weeks could I possibly plug them into? And so week 2, yeah, as you say, if I'm on Arizona, that means I can't take them week 2 against Carolina. But really, I think it's looking at Survivor Atlas, looking at other tools to see throughout the season, what weeks are they good in? And then they're good in week 8, they're good in week 9 and 12. And then you click on those weeks and see how many other good teams there are. And there's a few weeks that are, like 17, you mentioned, really shallow. So do you want to save a good team in 17? Maybe, but it's pretty far down the road. I think a lot's going to change by then. But week 10 is a pretty shallow week as well. Denver's the biggest favorite then. So to me, that's like a good reason to save Denver from week 1. So yeah, I think about not just week 2 and 3, but every week when making my pick.
And speaking of Denver, Randy chimes in and says, I've got 2 entries. Hopefully you're talking about Circa Survivor here, Randy. You're welcome on the show either way, but clarify if you're talking about Circa Survivor. I've got 2 entries. Is Denver and Arizona too obvious and risky? That's what I would pick as of today. Randy, I think you're speaking for a lot of people. I think those 2 teams represent the most comfort because they're 2 of the higher point spread. I saw Denver just went up to -8 from 7.5. So I would say they're not too risky because at least according to the odds makers, they're actually the most likely of winning. But what those 2 teams don't do for you is they don't allow you to zig while other people zag. And that is a general goal that a lot of people have when they play Survivor, because you don't want to be on the same thing as other people, because you don't want to drown with everybody at the same time, right? And if you can save Denver or Arizona for later on in the season when other people have already used them up, that's a good thing. Like, if you can get off Denver and say get by on, I don't know, Steelers, Colts, whatever you're thinking, and Denver wins, oh, bummer, Denver won. I could have picked Denver. You could think of it that way. Or you could think of it as now 30, 40% of the pool that's still alive has used the team that I still have for later in the season, like House was talking for a nice spot for Denver. I believe it was week 10 that he mentioned. So to answer your question, I wouldn't call it too risky. Wouldn't necessarily call it too obvious. It's not a terrible move. But if you do that all season long and take the chalk all season long, you're going to fault at some point. You guys agree with that assessment?
Yeah, fully. And as you say, you're either going to fault or you might make it through, but you're going to end up splitting the pot with 100 people.
And no jacket, right?
We printed 100 jackets that year.
Right.
Absolutely. House, before we let you go, any tips? Again, people watching this show, some beginners that are just learning about Survivor pools today, some people who've been doing this for 30, 40 years. What are just maybe one or two general tips that you can share with people? Maybe some things that helped you get to the final week of the season last year.
Yeah, I think for me, like, rather than playing not to lose, like playing not to lose is kind of just taking the biggest favorite every week, the non-risky pick. Like, you have to play to win and really just map it out and see, if I'm not going to take the biggest favorite, where else can I take them? So play to win. Don't play not to lose. Don't be scared to lose. Sometimes you have to take a coin flip game, because if you get through, you're going to set yourself up for a much better spot later on. So be ballsy earlier, step off, take some chances early and set yourself up to be in a good spot. There's 20,000 people or however many are going to be on it. You have to get very lucky to win. So just try to have to get less lucky than other people do. Like, everyone has to get lucky to win. If you have to be 99% lucky to win, if I can set myself up where I only need to be 97% lucky, I have a bit of a better chance to make it through.
Absolutely. I like that point that you make about taking some risks. Personally, if I have to take a coin flip, I'd rather do it in week 1 when my entry is worth $1,000 than when it has an implied value of $160,000 or $400,000. I'd rather take that risk early, especially if I've got multiple entries. So that's really good advice there from House.
And you could also then, if you lose, watch football sort of stress-free for the rest of the year. Whereas when you make it pretty far in Survivor, there's a lot of stress, and it's kind of all you're thinking about the whole week.
Hey, some of us like that stress, House. I kind of enjoy it, but I do see your point for sure. It does kind of consume you as the season goes on.
But I genuinely believe that it has not rocked you to the core of your being, though. I can tell that, like, you're good. I don't know if I'd be good, but I can tell you're good.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I'll tell a story about that week 18 loss that I had. I was in Hawaii. We were previously at a different island. We flew to Oahu. We got to our new hotel at about 10 p.m. the night before. So it was dark. We went to our room, had never seen any of the hotel yet. The game started at 8 a.m. there. My wife is like, I'm not going to be in the room for all this stress. I'm taking the kids. We're just going to the pool and stuff. You watch the game by yourself. Perfect. So I'm sitting there watching the game. It's not going well. I think it was about the third quarter, and Gabe from Survivor Atlas mentioned something in the Discord. He said, "Hey, House, like, we were in Hawaii a couple of years ago. Our team was losing at halftime, and we realized one of the guys had taken some Hawaiian rocks and put them in his backpack, and the Hawaiian gods didn't like that. So we got them out of his backpack. We ran to the beach. We threw them back in the ocean, and our team came back and won." I was like, wow, okay. The Packers, I was on the Packers. They were down like 10 or something at that point. Wasn't looking good. I was like, I don't have any rock. I didn't take anything. I was like, wait, my 4-year-old kid did. And he had like some little shells and stuff in his backpack. So like, he's out. I'm like, I'm taking these. So I take the stuff out of his backpack, and I've never left the room before because, as I said, we got there the night before. Go down the elevator.
The game's still going on, House. The game's still going on.
Third quarter. I'm like stressing balls. I can't even watch anymore. I get to what I thought was the main floor of the hotel. I'm like trying to leave, just get out of the building, and like I can't even find how to get out. I'm yelling and cursing, like, "Where the fuck's the door? Like, how do I get out of here?" I end up in like some staff hallway. I was like, "Can I help you, sir?" I'm like, "How the fuck do I get out of this building?" Like, go out the door over here. So I go at the door. I'm in like the burning sun now. Throw the shells right into the ocean. And I'm pacing around, and I look at my phone. I'm like, "Whoa, the Packers got a touchdown! Holy crap!" I'm like pacing around. I'm like, do I go back to the room and watch the game? I'm like, no, I don't think I can. So I'm pacing around like probably a super like creeper dude, just going around the pool, looking at my phone, stressing out. And then Packers got an interception. I was like, holy crap, this is working. They're coming back. They're coming back. Working. Oh my God. And then they went up. They got that, I forget if it was a touchdown or a field goal at the end. Packers were up a point. And I'm like, holy crap. And we had a family friend there with his kids, and he saw me.
Does anybody else have any rocks that I can throw in the ocean?
He's like, how's it going, man? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm stressed out. Walking around. He's like, the Bears are lining up for a 50-yard field goal. I'm like, holy crap. Walk around, and I get back, and I see him, and he has like a sad face. He's like, sorry. I'm like, oh. So that was that. I don't even know this guy that well. He's like my wife's friend's husband. And I was like kind of wet because I'd been in the water too, and I just bear hugged him. Give it a big hug. And I was like, oh.
I'm glad you had someone there in your trauma, man, to kind of support you. That's a tough one to swallow for sure.
Oh, it was hard, but it was fun. It was a great ride.
Hell yeah,
dude! That story is bananas. I'm crying. So
yeah, the chat is loving that story as well. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Well, shout out to Gabe from Survivor Atlas, because he Survivor Atlas is awesome, and two, yeah, he sort of initiated that story, and I really thought the Hawaiian gods were looking down upon me, but I guess not.
Oh gosh, it's like there's so many questions. I'm not. We're gonna have you on again, and then when I meet you in person, I'm gonna ask you things like, so then you see your wife. We're not gonna go there now, right? But God, right? No, he just closed his eyes. I can't help myself because you have such a great demeanor about the whole thing. You know, can't take it with you, bro. Love it.
Steven asked, did House hedge week 18? Go ahead and rewind this episode after we're done. We covered that. We're not going to go there again. We covered that in the beginning of this episode. House, you are the man. Thank you so much for the time today. Thank you so much for the wisdom. Thanks so much for sharing your story. We will look forward to following your journey this year. How many entries this year for you?
Yeah, so I got 10. Just under my own name, 10 again, big house, same name as last time. But one thing too, I find hard is like when you have one entry, it's really easy to just sort of what's the best pick and make it. When you have 10, it's hard. And like I thought about putting 10 in my wife's name, but like you said you have 20, Tony. That gets hard to sort of manage. Like, do I put 10 here, 6 here, 4 here? Like, how?
Yeah, I've got 10. My girlfriend has 10, and not only is like week 1 hard. Right? Like, do I want to do 2 here, 3 here? But then as you move along, this really caught me off guard the first year I did 10. As you move along, you start to like some of your entries more than others, right? Some are stronger than others. So you've got this really strong entry that you've nurtured that's got maybe a couple coin flips in it. So do you now want to put the more obvious, safer pick next on that entry to save it? Or do you want to go with another risky pick to make it a freaking superhero pick entry that's really valuable? And you've got to think about those implications with every single entry that you have. It's a mind fuck. It really is. As this goes on.
A lot of time. And you have to map out everything. Okay, I've used this team, and this team here. So who should I use this team on? Which entry should I use this team on? Which entry should I use this one? It's quite a process.
It really is. It really is. And I honestly don't think, unless you've experienced it, as we have, people that haven't done these survivor pools with this much money, I don't think they understand how much goes into it and how consuming it can be, which actually leads me to my last question for you, House. This is one of my favorite questions to ask people that like Survivor. I think we've said 5 times we got one more question for you, but this is such an enjoyable conversation. What percentage of your run last year was skill versus luck on a pie chart?
Great question.
Yeah, I think honestly it's a lot of luck. The way I like to look at it is it's one sample size. You get one tournament, one contest for the whole year to show your survivor skill. And in that 1 year, anything can happen, right? You can be lucky, you can be unlucky. Whereas if you look at a poker player, they get hundreds of tournaments throughout the year. So the good guys obviously end up doing quite well. But if you only looked at the World Series of Poker main event results and judged people's poker skills only by that tournament, like a lot of the top guys wouldn't be there because they just haven't fared well in that one tournament. So I think in the small sample size of any given year or tournament, it's a lot of luck. If you could sort of extrapolate it or simulate it to thousands of circuit tournaments, skill would prevail. So
good point. Very good point. Very good point.
You put yourself in a position where, like I sort of said before, you want to put yourself in a position where you don't need to be as lucky. But small sample size, of course, there's a lot of luck.
I like that. House, thank you so much for the time. This was a pleasure. Thanks so much for your wisdom and your stories, brother.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Love your show.
Appreciate it, man. Jason, how great was that to talk to someone that went on this insane journey last year all the way to the very end, hear what he's thinking. How about that story from the beach? I mean, this is a scene from a movie. It sucks that it was a bad ending from him. If he wins with that story, throwing the friggin' shells in the ocean in the middle of the game, are you kidding me?
Dude, I don't even know what to say. And I really do respect the everything on the table and just not gonna hedge. But you've talked to me about this marketplace, and we barely scratched the surface about this marketplace. I didn't know it existed last year. I wasn't really even in the content. I mean, that to me, I don't know to what extent you get into that on this show, but that's just a whole nother compartment. But I tell you what, I so much respect. Like, he wants the Hall of Fame yellow jacket. He wants the blue jacket. He wants to get in the Hall of Fame. He doesn't want to just play. And I love the idea of wanting to win the contest, right? So I couldn't respect him more. And gosh, man, there's a reason making it to week 18. It's no accident. Luck or skill, there's no accident.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I didn't get a chance to ask you this same question. You're our Patriots guy. You grew up a Patriots fan. You follow this team extremely closely. Anthony's question before that we asked House, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the Patriots week 1?
Well, it's really interesting. We talked to a guy from Massachusetts who was playing in the Survivor contest, and he has 3 entries. A couple of them were going to be on a heavy favorite, and he liked the Patriots. I host a show with a guy named Andy Gresh, who's been tapped into the Patriots intimately for many years. He loves the matchup for New England. He just thinks they're not, that Ashton Genty, it's a nice story. He thinks the Patriots are going to be able to stop the run that week. For me, when I see Pete Carroll coming back to New England with a veteran quarterback with Geno Smith and Max Crosby being able to create violence and a 22-year-old Drake May, I'm not running at all to play this in the contest. My brain is wired against the spread. So I see the 3 points with the Raiders. My mind goes there. I have 4 entries in the contest. I have another one that you and I will be, whatever it may be, but none of them will be on the New England Patriots, even though I'm bullish on that team this season.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think both the Raiders and Patriots are kind of wait and see teams. I want to see how they look the first couple weeks this season. I'm not going to overreact to how they look week 1, but they've got to prove it to me that they are good or bad either way, because I could see both of these teams doing a lot better than they did last season. I think a lot of people would agree with that statement.
Yep. I want to ask you a question, and sometimes I do like coming at it from like a square, sharp, tendency or angle. So one of the things that I said when we were in Vegas talking to Derbify, who had won the million contest, picking 5 games against the spread, I was talking to him about my idea of fading the Cleveland Browns this season. And he said, be careful of your bias there. Right now, I certainly respect the defense and potentially the havoc Myles Garrett and company can create. But the idea of sort of I had someone ask me, oh, so you're doing this contest. Don't you just pick 4 or 5 teams and just fade them? So I guess when I think about the Browns, right? So hosting Cincinnati week 1, I absolutely love Cincinnati. We could go on and on. At Baltimore week, if I were to fade Cleveland in the Survivor contest for the first 5 weeks, home to Cincinnati, I like the Bengals. Then they go at Baltimore week 2. Lamar Jackson wins that football game. Hosting Green Bay week 3. I believe that Green Bay will be good enough to win that game, but then at Detroit week 4, hosting Minnesota week 5. So I feel as though potentially, even though it's a team that I have biased against, I could be potentially zigging when others are zagging by fading them even at home against Green Bay or at home against Minnesota, because there's going to be a team in this league that goes 0-5. So any thoughts on that generally?
I mean, I love the idea of picking on a team that you think is a tier below the rest of the NFL. And if you've identified the Browns as that team for you, I don't hate it. I would just give a couple pieces of caution there. Last season, going into the season, we all thought New England and Denver were those teams to pick on all season long. All of us. Denver ended up being a friggin' playoff team, and we saw what the Patriots did in week 1. So it's not a bad strategy. It has worked very successfully for many of people in survivor pools. Also, just keep an eye on the holidays. I heard you say Green Bay in there. I heard you say Detroit in there the first couple weeks.
I know,
so
right?
if you're doing that, make sure you're leaving yourself. I don't know off the top of my head what Cleveland's week 6 through 10 is, but just kind of keep that in mind as well as you move along. But for me, if I'm going to take that approach, it might be the Saints. For me, I think the Saints are a worse team than the Browns, and the Saints would be that team to pick on, something to think about. But is the Saints' schedule the first couple weeks as soft as the Browns? That's debatable and worth looking at for sure.
In terms of the question you asked House, in terms of luck and skill, and you asked me, for you, because you've had some really nice runs in this contest, how would you answer that question generally? Luck versus skill for you.
Let me put it this way. I think there's more skill in it than most people think. Obviously, luck is a huge factor. I'll compare it to a poker tournament. You put Phil Hellmuth at a poker table with 10 nobodies, and Phil's going to win 99 out of 100 or whatever that number is because he's better. But there will be times when Phil loses because something silly happens to Phil, right? And I think those silly things happen in the NFL all the time.
Yes,
I will
great
bring up
way to
this
put
example. Every time we do this show, I'm going to bring up this example, probably because I still haven't got over the trauma of the 49ers losing their kicker in the first half against the Cardinals last year. You can't handicap for that. You can't handicap for the 49ers kicker getting hurt in the first. Stuff happens. The year that I had 2 entries left in the final 80, and both of my starting quarterbacks get hurt the same weekend, week 13. You can't really handicap for that. So there's going to be luck. It is absolutely a combination of skill and luck. If I had to put a number on it, I'm going to say like 55 skill, 45 luck. I feel like I might be a little higher than most people on that number. What are your thoughts on that number?
No, I think that's a great number. And gosh, we get to 45 minutes in a blink, and my brain goes back and forth between, can I ask Tony this? Can I not? Because it is so interesting with the 20 entries and everything. But so when I look at an NFL schedule, let's take the New England Patriots, and it comes out and you're like, wow, that looks like an easy schedule. But I find I may call myself a square NFL handicapper, but I've been ingesting this league fanatically for 35, 40 years. And it's so often at the beginning of the season, hey, Randy, we see you, appreciate it. Appreciate the clarification. But so often you see these schedules and they look easy and they're just not. And so I guess when I see it, when I think about it in the context of Survivor, no matter how a schedule may look, quarterback injuries happen every year, and that typically can flip the organization. So as you map out the season, inevitably there are things that, right? I mean, that when you, sometimes I would think the guys that take it week to week can benefit because it's the silly things that you described,
Yeah, absolutely. The silly things happen. And it feels like the silly things tend to happen in week 1. I mean, last year, that Patriots Bengals game that we talk about, that fumble at the goal line, silly things. You get your hopes up, not to score a touchdown. Nope, not happening. By the way, we've had a couple comments about the schedule on the right not being accurate. That is correct. The Jets don't play the Browns week 1, so apologies for that. We'll get this right for next week. But the first 2 games on that schedule are correct. Philly, Cowboys, Chargers, Chiefs. So just FYI on that. So thank you for those of you who spoke up on that. Real quick, before we move on, we're wrapping up the show here, but before we move on, I got to give a shout out to Race Oracle. And Jay, if you've got your ad read over there, Race Oracle is a fantastic piece of software. Go over to raceoracle.com. They use AI to give you, I'm going to put some screenshots up here, to give you recommendations if you like to bet on the ponies. This is what they do. They'll give you, based on your bankroll size, they'll give you an exact amount of money that they recommend you betting on an exact horse from tracks in the United States, across the world. And that amount of money is based off your bankroll. So if you're a big spender and you got a $20,000 bankroll, your bet recommendation is going to be a little higher than if you've got a smaller bankroll. So definitely check them out.
Yeah, and that's my favorite thing about it, because for me, I'm a little bit of a beginner horse bettor, but I love betting on horses. So for me, the bankroll component helps me greatly. Hit up Race Oracle. Attention racing fans, if you want an edge at the track, you need Race Oracle. This subscription service uses advanced AI modeling built on over 200,000 historical races, crunching hundreds of data points from weather, track conditions, to jockey history and speed ratings. Race Oracle gives you proprietary win percentages, Kelly betting strategies, and live odds tracking, covering every race in North America plus the UK and Ireland, so you can bet with confidence around the clock. Don't guess, predict smarter. Subscribe today, raceoracle.com, and start betting with data, not luck. Check out Race Oracle.
I love that House is still watching the show, and he says, silly things save you sometimes, like the Chiefs beating the Raiders on Thanksgiving. My buddy's entry that I had a little piece of was still alive, and we were on the Chiefs on Thanksgiving. And I will tell you, we did not deserve to advance that week. The Raiders were the better team on that day, and it wasn't even close. The Raiders, who couldn't run the ball all season long, were running the ball and getting first downs against the Chiefs. So that's a good point. We're talking about silly things hurting you, but they help sometime as well. How many people survived in Circa Survivor the year that Justin Tucker hit that, what was it, a 66-yard field goal against the Lions? There was hundreds of people on him to advance that year. So good point from House. Sometimes the silly things are beneficial too.
So, we talk about being aggressive early in Survivor, week 1 or whatever. And so let's say I take my 4 entries, right? Instead of going Broncos, Eagles, or a bunch of chalk, right? Bengals, I get cute. And I'm like, I don't like the Dolphins this year. I like the Colts at home, right? In a close game, right? So, and I take the Colts, and of course I could see the Colts. That could be a coin flip. I'm not running to the window to bet heavily on the Colts. So what I'll say to you is, how many times, I know you have multiple entries, you have all sorts of action, but how often when you're trying to get cute, if you will, and zig when others are zagging, that you wake up Monday morning and you're like, gosh, if I just didn't overthink it here, I may be in a different spot? Or is that just sort of part of the process?
No, it's a good point. It happens. It's something that you've got to live with. It's something that is a possibility, especially like when you said, when it's a coin flip-ish type game. But honestly, and I think this is subjective, everybody's different, I can live with that pain. You know what? I went with my gut. I trusted my conviction, and I went down, and I could look myself in the mirror and say, this is why I picked that team. What for me hurts more is when I don't do it, and I don't trust my gut, and I play it safe, and then that team wins. And I'm like, I knew I should have picked the Colts, and the Colts win. And I'm jealous of, alternate universe Tony, who had or the people who did pick it, To me, that hurts worse. You've always got to trust your gut. You've got to go with your instincts, and you can live with it if you lose on your instincts. If you let someone else sway you, that's why I give Survivor advice on this show. I'll give Survivor advice to people one-on-one. You never want to give someone advice and then have them take your advice and have it go poorly. That doesn't feel good, And you never want to let someone sway you off of your idea, because if it doesn't go that way, it's going to hurt for you both,
So I'm going to take you through a quick exercise running through each of these games before we get out of here. But I just want to ask you one quick thing, and maybe not so specific to Survivor, but generally speaking, oftentimes for me, well, I know we could look ahead at all these lines, but let's say what week 1 concludes and I look at week 2 on Monday morning or whatever the earliest point is. And I have some real strong feels. But as the week, things change, right? So that happens to you as a handicapper. Sometimes you're punching an early line or whatever it is. So how do you navigate that? Because Tony on Monday sometimes would disagree with Tony on Wednesday.
No, it's a great question. I mean, these last 2 weeks, Jason, we're seeing in real time, right? Like Trey Hendrickson signs his contract with the Bengals. Does that make you like the Bengals a little more? Micah Parsons is still holding out for the Cowboys. Does that impact the way that you're thinking about the Eagles? The NFL schedule as it goes throughout the week, like you've got the practice on Wednesday that gives you an idea of who's going to be playing, right? And then you got the practice report that comes out on Friday and all that. It really is evolving. How I feel early in the week is often not the same as how I feel at the end of the week. And that news that comes out, injury news, weather, I'm going to say it again, weather, huge in Circa Survivor. Nothing helps a friggin' underdog out more, levels the playing field more than a sloppy field. So, yeah, those things evolve as the week goes on for sure. Great question.
I need 4 hours a show with you. All right. I'm going to go through every game week 1. And we're not going to tell you how much we like each game, but I just want you to sort of go into your brilliant mind. And I want you to give me one word for every game. All right. Just one word, you know?
And then next week, we are going to go deep into every single game, just so people know, this time on Wednesday next week.
Absolutely. And Tony, I want to say publicly, like you and I need a private chat because I genuinely need to get a feel for some of the disclosures here, because even when you talk about certain games, you float things out there and I capture all of it. Hopefully the fans are listening, right? Tony Farmer drops little nuggets, little leans if you're paying attention. All right. Thursday, September 4th, Philadelphia Eagles will raise the banner hosting the Dallas Cowboys. Eagles -6.5. One word.
Fascinating. From a Survivor perspective, I'm fascinated by the percentage of people that are going to be on the Eagles because you can rebuy, because there's Thanksgiving implications.
I love it. And I like for all of this word is from a Survivor implication. All right. The international series, Sao Paulo, Brazil, Chargers, Chiefs -3.5. One word.
Strategic. Because I think taking the Chiefs is a bad idea here because they have so much future value. I don't hate taking the Chargers, and I think the Chargers are more live in that game than most people do. I don't think taking the Chargers in week 1, if you have multiple entries, is a bad idea. I think it's worth serious considerations. I was just in a Discord channel and people were disagreeing with me. I respect that. Strategic is my word. I think the Chargers are an interesting piece.
The Kelsey Swift engagement fade. I'm with you, Tone. I'm with you. Raiders at Patriots.
Raiders at Patriots. Stay away. Is that 2 words?
Oh, that's beautiful.
In there. Yeah, stay away from me. 2 teams that I think could surprise people this year. I want nothing to do with it week 1.
Buccaneers at Falcons.
Divisional. That's my word that I'm going to go with. Falcons beat the Bucs twice last year.
Yeah.
Keep that in your mind if you're thinking about going with the Bucs. Both teams are going to be without their best starting tackle. Michael Penix is a left-handed quarterback. His right tackle, that's his blind side. That's the more important tackle on the Falcons. McGarry's out for the year now. We just learned that a couple days ago. Both teams without their starting tackle. That one's a little scary for me.
Miami Dolphins at the Fighting Daniel Joneses.
I don't want to reuse the word strategy, but that's what I want to say again. I'm going to do it. I'm going to reuse strategy because I think if you have the balls, that's my word, balls. If you have the balls to take either the Dolphins or the Colts in this coin flip type game, if you have the conviction, you're going to be feeling really good with the win going into week 2.
I love it. All right. Panthers, Jaguars. We've talked a lot about this game.
My word's going to be Cohen. Liam Cohen, the head coach for the Jaguars. I think he's going to make all the difference in that team. Interesting Survivor choice because the Panthers, a lot of people think, are an up-and-coming team. I think the Panthers were snake bit by injuries a lot last year. I think they're better than people think. I could get in on the Jaguars in week 1 potentially.
I like that. When you said Cohen, I thought you might go Duval.
Classic.
And shout out Mike Jones in the back helping us get through this at Media Zone. He is a Jaguars fan. So keep that in mind.
I didn't know that about Mike. That's awesome.
Yeah. I need more. One word, but Tony, next week, lots of words. Giants at Commanders.
Trap. I think the Commanders are very scary week 1 for a lot of reasons we'll get into next week.
Cardinals, Saints.
Safe. I like the Cardinals week 1. There are some good opportunities to use them later in the season. But I think they're relatively as safe as you can get in week 1 in the NFL. I think the Cardinals are relatively safe.
And you punched Jonathan Gannon 25-1 coach of the year. I'm seeing it like 14 places. So nice odd there, Tony.
Yeah.
Bengals, Browns.
I think there's a lot better spots to use the Bengals later in the season. I'll leave it at that.
Your San Francisco 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks.
Injured. The 49ers are very banged up. They just signed Marquez Valdez-Scantling today. And That's actually a big deal because they're so banged up. They got wideout. One of them suspended. One of them's holding out. One of them's hurt real bad. This team is banged up. I think there's better spots to use the 49ers later in the season, but they also have been getting beat up as the seasons have gone on. So keep that in mind as well.
I love it. That's gonna stick. I hope he's still around, or Mike, he'll never come back because you throw that up there so much. All right, Titans at the biggest favorite of the week, Broncos -8.5. I'm seeing.
One word, I'm going to say popular. That is going to be the number 1 selection in Circa Survivor. I feel very, very confident saying that.
And I think it was House or you said that seeing some good spots for the Broncos later in the year. So that was good for me to hear. Yep. Lions at Packers.
By the way, real quick on the Broncos point, good spots for them later in the season. They're a holiday team too. They play Kansas City on Christmas. I understand they're going to be an underdog, but if Mahomes gets hurt halfway through the season and you still have Denver, what's the point spread now on Christmas? You're going to be feeling pretty damn good about having the Broncos as an option on a very, very difficult Christmas slate.
Agreed. Lions, Packers.
Reconnaissance will be my word because they play later in the season on Thanksgiving, and you'll be looking closely to see how these teams match up because maybe you want to use one or the other on Thanksgiving later.
I love this game. Texans at Rams. Sounds fun.
I'm going to say coaching familiarity. There's a couple coaches on the Texans who know that Rams coaching staff intimately, and I think that's going to help the Texans a lot in that game. We'll talk more about that next week.
Yeah, dude, can't wait. Ravens, Bills. Respect to anyone that punches this in Survivor.
Circa Survivor aside, just entertainment. That's my word. That's going to be so fun to watch. The MVP versus the guy who finished second and some people think should have been the MVP last year. 2 playoff teams, arguably the 2 best teams in the AFC. All respect to the Chiefs. That is a lovely week 1 game for Sunday Night Football. I can't wait.
And the idea, even if you have 20 entries or 10 and 10, to get cute here when you want to use these teams most certainly later on, I would be shocked to see someone on either one of these teams.
Yeah, well, it's week 1 and there's 20,000 people, so there'll be a couple people, like literally single digits maybe, but I agree, no interest whatsoever on either of those teams week 1 for me.
Well, and like I'm looking for Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson to give me 2 no-sweat Sundays at some point this season, so I'm not looking to sweat this great matchup. All right,
very good point.
Monday, September 8th, Vikings at Bears. Final game.
Uncertainty is the word. I think,
What'd you say?
Uncertainty is my word. JJ McCarthy for the Vikings, great roster. How good is he going to be in what is essentially his rookie year? And the Bears, how good is Caleb Williams going to vibe with Ben Johnson, his new play caller? That might take some time. We'll see. A lot of uncertainty with either of these 2 teams, and that makes me not want to pick them for week 1.
Bro, it's unbelievable. Like I have so many thoughts, so many things that I want to ask you that aren't related to Survivor, just related to the National Football League. So it's such a pleasure and a privilege to be able to talk to you about this league. And like I said to anyone who was on our show last week, when the first day I ever met Tony, he's like, week 1 NFL Sunday is my favorite day of the year. I'm like, okay, I'm on that train. Put me on that bandwagon with that guy driving now.
And what are we, 10, 11 days away from that day? It's bigger than Christmas for me, bigger than my birthday. I cannot wait, man. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Love it.
All right, Wednesday, we are going to be back. We're going to do a deep dive into every single game on the week 1 slate. It's a show you absolutely do not want to miss. If you guys have been watching this show, if you got something from us, a little nugget, a little piece of helpful information, if you enjoyed House's story about being on the beach, please hit that like button. Please subscribe on YouTube. This episode is going to be available on Spotify sometime in the next 48 hours or so. You can re-listen to it there. We appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for all the comments. Take care.